Hi, and welcome to another episode of Unexpected Advice. Today, I'm joined by Lynn Anderson. Lynn is a longtime business owner with more than 30 years of experience running an in-home daycare. She's recently stepped into something new with the launch of her own party balloon business. She's based in Anadarko, Oklahoma, where she's from, and is known in the area as a talented performer in her community. Over the years, she's trained singers and developed a powerful voice, both literally and through her story. She's faced and overcome significant physical health challenges, and that resilience really shows up in everything she does. She's also a mom to 3 incredible daughters, 2 of whom she and her husband adopted, and her biological daughter, who is now a music teacher in their local area. But if you ask me, what really stands out most about Lynn is who she is to the people around her. She's a mentor, a cheerleader, and a constant voice of joy and hope. And as you know on the show, that is not what we're going to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about something a little unexpected: firing your customers. So, Lynn, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Yay!
So we both got a good chuckle out of this, I will say.
Yeah.
Lynn's great. She's wonderful. She'll just encourage you and be your cheerleader. But here's how you fire people.
And she's going to teach you how to fire people. Get ready.
Awesome. This was an interesting topic when you brought it up because it matters so much to what you do, and even maybe a more significant way than a lot of people would think about in running an in-home daycare.
Yes.
But as we talked and you introduced the concept, every time we said something and brought something up, it drove it like, but that's exactly what business owners need to think. Well,
Exactly.
I've had those experiences where we had to think about that. One of the top things, and I think was about alignment to vision. And I think this is so important for what you do with your business. But let's talk about, first of all, like why? Why is this important? Why is having the right people in your business with you, especially for you running something where it's in the home? Why did this even come up? What was important to you about it?
Well, I just think that it is so important because for the success of everyone involved, you know, with parent and provider relationships, you want to be able to go to work and you don't want to have to worry about your babies. But also, while you're at work and you're missing out on that time with your children, you want to make sure that whomever you're trusting with that care and that time is pouring into them good things, because they're essentially helping you raise your child. And so I think that it's so important that it's a good fit for the child, because they're feeding off of those dynamics. They're always listening. They hear how you're speaking of the provider or how you're speaking of the parent when when the other's not around. And so they're feeding, off of those dynamics. And it's just very important that there's a mutual respect.
Yes.
So I think that that's what makes it so important.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, first of all, it's maybe more important. I think it's more dramatic. It's more emphasized with the daycare because you have you have kids involved in this. But it matters for business owners no matter what, because you do have a vision. Regardless of your business, you have a vision. And if you start bringing in clients that aren't aligned with that vision, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
You have division.
Yes. You do have division. So what are some of the things that you've kind of noticed over time? Because we're going to dive into some advice that you would give people. What is some of the advice you would give people when they're thinking about, like, how do you even tell that something's not working? Because I think there's that it starts maybe with a nag, that little niggle, that little something.
You're so right, Esther. And with parenting, so much of what we do is from the gut. And sometimes you can't put a name on it. You can't put your finger on it, but there's a knowing.
Yes.
And so I think that what's important about identifying that right connection would be those first feelings that you bring to each other. There are times when someone walks in and quite honestly, within the first 2 or 3 minutes, I know if you're going to be a good fit for me, or if I should say everything to make you not want to be here.
So this is so funny you said that. I remember working with a sales manager at one of my companies, and we literally every time we'd get this new client, or maybe it was a big opportunity coming, something like, oh, we're all excited about it. He's like, he's going to be difficult. Like you knew right away. And I think that's important because we have to, and I remember talking about this with him because there was a big project, and he's like, I don't think this prospect is going to walk through our sales process. I don't think they're going to be easy to work with. And I said, what will it take for you to be comfortable with this?
Mhm.
And he listed off these 3 things. I said, do those 3 things. If they don't agree to that, then we walk away. So I think business owners, like, trust your guts. That's what I'm hearing from you. Trust your guts, because your guts are telling you something. And if they say something's not quite aligned, figure out what it'd take to get aligned.
Yes. Yes. A lot of times, and this is what happens, I think, across the board in business, is most people will say whatever they feel is needed to get what they're wanting. And I think that the important thing is to hold them to that, because so many times, I have a written formal policy, and we go over that, or I provide them a copy of that, and it's always agreeable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes. Oh, it's fine with me that you're never at work and you always take off. And, and then when you need to take off, what? They're lying. And so I think that it's so important that you do hold that person, family, or future employee to the policy. And many times I have to bring it back up and say, okay, let's look at our sick policy again. And, here it says your kid cannot come vomiting with diarrhea and fever. And no, you cannot dope and drop them. You come in and they can't even participate because why? They've had too much Tylenol. Their sleep. And so, referencing that, I think is very good. The rules, the policy, and letting them know, this is what we discussed, or this is what is written, and this is what you agreed to. Yeah. And I think what's so important, Esther, is not only holding them to it, but holding yourself to it, because it's so tempting to get away from it for various reasons, but you really are doing yourself a disservice.
Yes.
When you yourself don't go by your policy.
So, Lynn, you're really right. I think holding ourselves accountable and holding the customers accountable is kind of that critical element. And it's really easy in every place in any company, in any phase of the company, to make that exception because somebody asks or you want to help someone out. Here's the other thing I would think as business owners and as people, you've also got to have 2 things. You have to have those policies defined. Right? So what if you don't have them defined? That's not going to help anybody out. You've got to create some systems. And secondly, if you have a lot of people asking for this exception, it is okay to review that and say, all right, is this the right policy? Should I review this? Should I rethink it? Because that also gives you the ability to go back and in your case, sometimes say, no, of course it's the right policy. What am I thinking?
Exactly. There have been so many times that I've ran into situations and referenced my policy and found that it actually wasn't addressed there. For instance, potty training. I remember going through a situation with the family potty training, and I thought, I don't have any policy on this. This is very important. So I was able to go back in and, address that. And it's been so helpful. And I've had to reference it. I don't know what I did before amending that policy. I was winging it.
Yeah, basically.
But it's just been so helpful, though, even for families, because a lot of times you find that it's not that people are trying to be difficult. It's just that the structure hasn't been established.
Yes.
And so now you've got chaos.
Yeah.
Or someone trying to hijack just because you've not provided adequate structure.
Well, and I'm kind of curious, we're going to jump into the idea of the actual firing. You kind of recognize that there's something wrong. You've looked at the policy. You've held them accountable. Why? This is a hard thing because as business owner, you're going to lose business, right? It's hard.
It's so hard, but it's so worth it. When you have identified that it's not a good fit and that, it's time to say goodbye. It's so difficult. But what I've found is that the best recipe is just to be completely honest. And most of the time, people know. Most of the time, that person is aware that, it's time. And so what I try to do is not make it about an emotion of I'm angry, you've made me mad or disappointed, but more so of what I'm offering is not what I'm seeing that you need. I think that people are able to receive that better. There have been times that for the child's sake, I've been able to say that this is not the right setting for your child. They're needing something more than what I can offer here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or something different than what I
Yeah.
can offer. And so I think that the best way is just to be honest. There are some situations that no matter how you approach it, it's going to be
It's going to be tough.
it's going to be uncomfortable.
It is, and we can't shy away from that. I think especially as business owners, as leaders, as people that are running, because there's other people counting on you. How are you being unfair to the rest of that client base that you need to retain? That one client that's consuming all of your time, complaining all the time, not paying their bills on time.
Sucking the joy and the life out of you.
Yes.
For me, that's major. I mean, when I'm spending my day having conversations with you and you're not present, you're taking away from what I should be able to focus on, which is pouring into the children.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, that's the end of the road. When you're taking away from the purpose, of the program, then, that's going to have to be dealt with. And so my favorite thing to do is to give a heads up that I need to speak to you. That's always a good entry. And then after that, it is, hey, I feel like we've come to the end of the road here, and I'm willing to help however I can. I can give you some recommendations. I can give you a couple of weeks to prepare, but, this is going to be my last day of service and give the date.
Yes, yes.
And I'm telling you, I've had horror stories with this, because inevitably what's brought us to that point most usually is a lack of respect. And so once you set that deadline, the person that doesn't respect you is not going to respect that decision. So, I've given that recommendation before, and I've actually had a parent come back anyway.
Yeah. What did you do?
Well, first of all, I knew that they were coming back because there was such a high level of disrespect. So I knew that when they left for the end of the day and didn't say a final goodbye to me, that they were going to come back. And I opened the door. And the sad part about it is the child was with them.
That's so tough.
And I just let them know I wasn't expecting you this morning.
Yeah.
And they just let me know that they didn't want to go. And I let them know that at that point, we needed to revisit the situation and have another conversation, not just you show up for service. And mind you, the child is listening to this conversation, which is what completely broke my heart. And, the parent let me know that they had been unable to get childcare and didn't know what they were going to do, and that she didn't want to leave. And I told her that I would extend the time and give her another. And this is a baby that I'd helped raise from an infant. And it was very tough. And this was a very challenging situation. And so I did. I gave another month, but I told her, I said, I'm going to tell you that this spot will not be available after that time. Yeah. That I will
have someone else.
I will have someone else ready to come.
Yep.
And so this will be the final month. And that was extra gracious, but I do think that it's okay to extend an extra amount of grace. Where you can, when you can. And I was able to do that. And I felt real good about it, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to go to sleep at night and look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
and feel good about, how you have treated other people.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
so that did work out. I took care of the child for another month, which was good. I was glad to have the baby for a month.
Yeah.
And that parent was ready at the end of that month. I think that they really did just understand that I was sure. And I'd had time to resolve those emotions,
Yeah.
and they hadn't. And I think that did just give them the time that they needed to fully accept that.
And sometimes I know I've been at companies where you had a client that really treated my staff completely unprofessionally. It was inappropriate. It was wrong. It wasn't tolerated. Fortunately, we had leadership that didn't tolerate that. And I remember we basically said, we'll no longer be doing business with you. And they would wait. This gentleman would wait, and he would call back in like 6 months and he'd call the front desk and try to get a different customer service rep that didn't know. I mean, he's kind of dumb because I'm like, we do have computer systems. He was flagged as a do not sell. And sure enough, and like flagged up, somebody comes like, hey, I've got this, I'm like, and you basically have to say like, no, we're not doing business with you. Well, I really need these parts. And we're like, well, appreciate that, but you are unprofessional. You've treated our people with disrespect, and we don't tolerate that type of behavior in our organization. And it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to walk away from chunks of business like that. But at the same time, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to look at yourself. You have to, and especially if you have staff, and you've had staff at different points in time, but you have staff, and if those staff are treated, it's your job as the owner, it's your job as the leader to protect their work environment and to make it a healthy, safe place to work.
Absolutely. It is your responsibility. And what I found is that when you do have that one person that's not a good fit, it can completely take the joy away from what you're doing. And there have been times when I felt like the answer to losing that was just to completely pull out the profession. And that was me avoiding, those situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the truth is that once I have enforced my policy, the joy's back, and things are, I'm like, on Finding Nemo when they say today's the day, the sun's shining, the tank is clean. That's kind of how it is. It's like, the sun is shining. And so I think that that's one of the benefits of addressing those things and being upfront about it. And I've been guilty of holding on too long, thinking that I'll take the higher road. I will, that's just always a no, not taking the higher road, but allowing, something to continue that is contrary to your policy. Those expectations that you've outlined for the parent or the customer, and what they can expect from you. You have to stick to that. You just have to. And it has to be across the board. People think that, well, because we're friends or because we're family, those are reasons for you to be even better. You should be an even better customer, even better client, even better family to work for, because you are family. That's not code for be as lousy as you can possibly be. Or
you can get away with it.
Yeah, no, that's yuck. That's yuck. And so I've been so guilty of that, of thinking, well, it's my cousin. And so, I'm going to allow this because of that. Biggest mistake ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't do you any favors. And but you also learn. I mean, sometimes you have to learn the hard way. I think there's also this fear of failure in it, Lynn. We don't want to, when we have to fire a customer, we feel like as the business owner, as the person you feel this pressure to make it work, It's your responsibility to make it work. And other people, you have to let other people take responsibility for their actions, their behaviors. Look, if they're not going to pay their bills on time, and you have clients that will pay their bills on time, why are you spending energy on the client who won't? Why are you chasing the nap? They're consuming that opportunity. If they're complaining all the time and you're redoing work for them all the time, focus on the places that actually invest in you, that are good for your business, good for your mental health. And yeah, maybe you don't quite grow as fast, but in the long run, you're going to be resilient because that book of business you've built is yours and they're loyal and they have mutual respect and they align to your vision, they believe in what you're doing. All of those things are going to be for the better of the process.
Exactly. And not being afraid.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, firing someone does mean a reduction. It could mean a reduction in pay, but what I have found is that when I do fire, those families that aren't a good fit, it simply does just make space for those who are a perfect fit. And there's been so many times the most amazing relationships have been birthed out of that pruning and cutting back away from those, dead, so to speak, leaves.
Yeah. Wow. This has been such great advice, Lynn. Thank you so much for contributing, for giving us guidance because we need to hear it. It's a hard thing to do and we need to hear it. And it's not something a lot of people are willing to talk about. So I really enjoy and appreciate you talking to us about it. In my podcast, I also have a little segment that is expected advice where we would hear something that we would expect to hear from you. So here's my question for you. Parents that are looking, like especially new parents, and oh my God, I'm going to have to put my kids into a daycare. I'm going to put them into a facility at home. Facilities, bigger, smaller chains. What's a couple of pieces of or one piece of advice that you would give to new parents when they're thinking about it and evaluating their options? What should they be thinking about? What should they be looking for? What's that piece of advice you would give parents that are listening to this that are all over the place? Right? We have a lot of listeners in Pennsylvania. So what advice would you give them?
Well, I have lots of advice for them. The first thing that I would say is don't feel guilty. I think that parents so many times carry guilt, feeling like you're not there for your child, when the truth is by providing reliable, loving care for them from a professional who is committed to being there while you go and work to earn money to take care of them is a very loving and very present decision. And the second thing that I would tell them is don't fall for my aunt is going to keep the baby situation. I'm telling you, it doesn't work because auntie is going to bail out on you when her left toe hurts.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to make sure you're in a licensed place.
Yeah.
Because there's training, there's accountability, there's education, and there's also passion that I think is so important. I say go with your gut. If you trust that person, then I think that is where you should begin because it's a bad decision to leave your child with someone that you feel like you have to check on.
Yeah, you don't want to be there.
Another thing that I think is don't judge by drop off. Drop off is always emotional. It's always hard to say goodbye. Hard for you, hard for the child. And if you think because you sang ABCs on the way to daycare, they don't know that you're a nervous wreck, they do.
Yeah.
They feel that. And so I think a good rule of thumb is to judge by pickup. If pickup is happy and energetic, or maybe they don't want to leave, you're going to know that your child has had a good day. And I think that that's, a good something to watch for for a parent. If that child has had a bad day, number one, I'm going to notify you prior to pickup. I don't allow a child to stay all day miserable. I'm going to call you and say, hey, we're just not having a good day and I can't seem to get them to settle in. I've only had to do that once in 30 years. So I feel that a good, skilled, loving provider is able to get a child to settle in and know that they're safe.
Well,
and comfortable.
And that builds trust too. I like to have that conversation. I remember, and you had given me this advice. I remember I was living in Houston and the kids had to go into care and we had to switch care providers. And it was great for my daughter. She was an infant at the time because the facility we went to had less infants and more staff workers. But for my son, it was very traumatic. It was not the right space for him. And I remembered that what you said what you rang in my head, and he cried for like a week. I think I lasted a week. Every single day, it was a cry when we let him off. It was a cry when we picked him up. I called the previous daycare, and there was a reason we'd lost funding. It was a military thing. We'd lost funding, and I was like, I'm going to pay out of pocket. I called him up, said, can you get him back in the program? And they're like, yeah, sure. And he went back to the other program, jumped in his teacher's arms, and said, bye, mommy.
I just love that. I love that so much.
That's what you want as a parent.
That's what you want as a parent. You want their eyes to light both ways. You want to see that provider's eyes light up when they see your child, and you want to see that child's eyes light up when they see the provider. And so I think watching those cues is going to be, so important. The provider-parent relationship is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Still have those relationships that I have developed over the years. And they're still very special to me, some of my best and dearest friends. Because as a childcare provider, not only are you taking care of the child, but you are loving and nurturing the entire family. I try my best to be approachable. When I see that there is a little bit of intimidation, perhaps that a parent may be feeling, usually my younger parents sometimes will feel a little bit intimidated, like they kind of feel like almost like I'm a mother figure to them. And I have to let them know, I want you to be able to talk to me. I want you, I want you to be able to even say the hard things. And it's better for you to tell me the truth and let me try to figure out how I can help you and assist you than you to lie to me and try to deceive me, because most of the time I know you're lying. And that's, important. It's like after 30 years, I've heard most of it, all of it. I've seen all of it. So it's like, just, don't
be honest.
Just be honest.
Be honest.
It is my heart as a provider to uphold and support and assist. It's like, if you didn't have time to brush the teeth, put the toothbrush and the toothpaste in the bag and we'll get those teeth brushed. Don't say, we got our teeth brushed, and the plaque is built up, because it's like,
just be honest. Be honest, because it's also that I think you're tugging on something is for parents that are looking for those providers, find someone who will help you with those things and doesn't resent you. Like you don't want to feel judged as a parent. Like some days are crazy and you don't have time to do the thing. I want to trust that I have someone who's got my back.
Exactly. And I love that more than anything. I tell my moms and my dads all the time, I got you. And I want you to know that hey, when you pick up, I'm going to have that hair together. We're going to be together, because guess what? I want to be a part of a team that lets you shine and lets your child shine. And it is my honor, to serve in that way. And so I think that you've got to give credit to your provider and know that that's the heart of your provider.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you for the advice you gave on everything. And we appreciate you taking time with me. I really do. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.